You're not just tired of the fight, you're tired of the cycle, the blow up, the fallout, the awkward days after. And then things slowly begin to calm down. You can breathe again and you start to have hope. And then the smallest thing happens, something that should not be a big deal at all. And you're right back at it. Same fight, same words, same ending. And now you're thinking, maybe this cycle is just permanent for us. It's not. But the reason it keeps coming back is probably not what you think. Have you ever had a really stubborn weed in your yard that no matter what you do, you cannot get rid of it? You pull it, it comes back. You mow over it, it comes back. You pour weed killer on it, it disappears for a few weeks. And you think, oh, great, we're done with that. And then one day you go outside and there it is. Same weed, same spot. Except maybe it's a little bigger now. And here's why. You were treating the part of the weed that you could see, the part above ground. But underneath that is a fully intact root system, just waiting, invisible, untouched. As long as it's there, the weed's never going to fully go away. It's just out of sight for a little while. That's your reoccurring fight. Every argument you've had is a weed, and everything that you've done to try to fix this, the apologies, the promises that things will be different, that's like you mowing over the weed. And mowing has never killed a weed. You have to dig down underneath to get to the real source of these fights. Otherwise, they're just going to keep coming back like clockwork. So what is the root? What's underneath this fight that you keep having? Well, after 30 plus years of working with couples, I've boiled it down to 3 possible roots, no matter what the weed looks like on the surface. And the first one is an unmet need that was never really named. So the fight looks like it's about the dishes or the bills or how you spoke to each other in front of the kids. But underneath that is an unmet need to feel respected and valued, to be made a priority. But you're not really naming that out loud, so the conversations always stay on the surface. And this latest fight is just another attempt to have that unspoken need be met. But as long as you're only talking about the dishes, the need doesn't get met, and the weed grows back. The second root is a wound that never healed. Somewhere in this marriage, maybe a long time ago, maybe recently, something happened that really hurt you and it caused a deep mark and it got glossed over. Maybe there was an apology, or maybe just enough time has gone by that it feels resolved, but it isn't. It just got covered up with soil and it lives underneath every argument like a raw nerve, super sensitive to anything that feels remotely similar to what originally happened. And no matter what you do on the surface, that wound is feeding the root. The third root is a pattern that never got interrupted. Now, this kind of root is more structural. Think of your yard again, and you go out there and you see these seemingly random weeds popping up. But if you could get a good look at what's going on underneath, you would see a complex root system that connects all these weeds together. Well, that's what happens in marriage. You as a couple, you've developed a way of interacting with each other, moves and counter moves. And you're not doing this intentionally or consciously, but it plays out over and over with every fight that you have. And these are not being caused by some sort of wound or some sort of core need being unmet. They're just a habitual response that you've learned that's become your default system. And so if you don't actively do something to change that, pulling one weed isn't going to do any good. And the other problem here is that, there's more than one kind of root system growing in your marriage. That's normal. So you pull one weed, you pull one root system, you still got all these others that are going on. That's the thing about getting to the heart of the problems in your marriage. Pulling one type of root is never enough. And those good periods that you have in between fights, as welcome as they are, nobody wants to fight. That's not evidence that your root system has been addressed. I want you to imagine this. It's Sunday morning and you go out in your yard. You're going to enjoy a nice cup of coffee. And there it is. That weed that you thought you'd gotten rid of 3 weeks ago. You feel that frustration welling up in you that seems so disproportional to this tiny little weed. So this time, you're going to dig this thing out. You go get your gardening gloves and your tool, and away you go. And you're sure that, you're going to get to the bottom of this weed and it's going to be toast. Well, you start digging, and then you're digging some more. You're past the root ball, and you begin to realize, whoa, this root system is way more extensive than I realized. Every time I was pulling that weed and couldn't see it anymore, I thought problem solved. But here it is. It's been growing quietly and visibly under the surface, just waiting, just regrouping. Now apply that to your marriage. Think about that reoccurring fight. You know the one that happened a few months ago and you thought was resolved, and it came back a month ago and seemed to get resolved, and now it's probably about to pop up again. Well, what if you're just treating what seems to be evident on the surface? What if underneath this reoccurring fight, there is a root system that goes much deeper than either you have ever been willing to go? And it's going to keep popping up until you're both ready to dig down deeper than you've ever dug before. But how do you actually pull the root? Well, as I've already said, you have to stop treating the quiet moments in between the fights as evidence that everything's fine, because it's not. I truly do hope that you have those quiet moments, because that feels genuine and there's a relief that comes with, oh, we're not fighting. But you need to use that time intentionally, not just to go, oh, I'm glad the emotions have calmed down, let's just move on. No, this is your time to really dig underneath the fight and go, what's really going on? What kind of root are we dealing with? Is there a core wound that hasn't been healed? Is there an unmet need that needs to be addressed? Is this a pattern that we've defaulted to, that we're both playing out, that we need to look at it? And this is the best time to really dig down deep, because you're not emotionally activated, you're not defensive. So use this time of calmness to do the digging. Then once you've uncovered what kind of root system we're talking about, the next time you have that reoccurring fight, you have the opportunity to have a real conversation about what's going on underneath that soil, not just what's on top of it. You get to say something like, this is the need I really have. I know I've been arguing about this, but I've come to realize that what's really going on is this. Or I realize that I haven't fully let go and forgiven this that happened way back. And it's not that I want to beat you up over it, but I realize that I've got to do this work here. And that's why this fight keeps popping up. Once you've done that digging, you can have a genuine root conversation, not a top of the soil weed conversation. And then the third thing is just recognize that sometimes your root system gets so complex that you need help. And that's okay. It's not a failure to say, I can't pull this root out by myself. Or we as a couple, we've been trying now and we're pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling, and it just goes too deep and it's so tender and so sensitive that we're doing something wrong, or we just don't know how to do this effectively. That's honestly why I created Marriage in Bloom. Marriage in Bloom is a transformative program that is designed to help you, first of all, identify what kinds of roots are growing underneath your soil and why, and then how to gently but very effectively dig down to the actual end of the root system and pull it out gently but thoroughly, so that this weed doesn't just keep popping back up into your marital garden. Asking for help is probably the most courageous thing that you can do for your marriage. I've got 2 tools that I want you to utilize. The first one is free. It's called 3 Conversations That Save a Marriage. There's nothing that stops you from addressing the root system today. And those 3 conversations are going to help you get that started. It's like going into your shed and getting the digging tools, whatever that is, and beginning to really get beneath the soil. The link is in the description below. The third tool is a lot more thorough, and it's called the Garden Walk. What this is a sit down with one of my team members, you by yourself, your spouse by themselves, going through 8 categories of your marriage very thorough assessment that now generates a 15 plus page garden report. I call it the garden report because of the metaphor. And this is going to tell you exactly why you have these reoccurring weeds popping up. Some take forever to grow up, some pop up overnight. Again, it's dependent on what kinds of roots are growing in your marriage. And it's going to identify the root systems. It's going to tell you exactly what you need to change in order to get down and pull those roots up. And then the third thing that you get is a sit down with me, and I go through the whole report with you very thoroughly. And if you're interested, I will walk you through the process that I use in Marriage in Bloom to help you do that. If you just want to take the report and apply that yourself, you're totally welcome to do that too. It's a standalone tool. It costs $197. This is a $600 savings, so it's well worth the money. If you're interested in that, the link is also in the description below. Please don't try to do all this by yourself, especially if you've got roots in your marriage that are so deeply entrenched that no matter how long and how hard you dig, you can't seem to get to the bottom of this. Reach out today.